like I said earlier, you should have a gun because you want to protect yourself. So you never know what in the world now. There's just a lot of shooting. There's a lot of like destruction. So you'd rather have your own safety and be prepared in case something around you that's happening. So you'll be able to like protect yourself.
Is there a reason though that people would prefer to conceal carry instead of open carry, you think? What would that be?
I mean, especially if you're opening carry, say somebody does come into a restaurant, they're going to look for you to shoot first because you're a threat to them. If they can visibly see a handgun on your hip, they're thinking that you're a threat to them because they could easily put a bullet in you.
So if that's the case, if you're wearing your gun openly out in public, does it seem wise to do that?
I would say no, because out of all like criminal like records, they did a survey of people in state penitentiaries and stuff, and they asked them if they were to see a gun, if they were committing a crime, it would deter them. And then some of them said they would also like go for them first because this is like one of the people they can actually stop.
You guys talk to us a little bit about the Castle Doctrine, states that incorporate it, and then your feelings on it.
Could you elaborate on the Castle Doctrine?
So the Castle Doctrine, it's a law that some states allow. You have absolute vindication from your actions. So if I broke into your home and you dropped me, no charges will be brought against you because it was in self-defense.
Personally, I don't see a problem with that. If someone comes into your home and for the defense of yourself and your family and the people you care about, if you have to stop the threat through deadly force, then I feel like that's the measures you have to take.
Okay. Did you guys find anything in your research like how the laws work from state to state? Like, so if you shot an intruder, say, in one of the New England states versus Kentucky versus Texas?
We didn't do a whole lot of research on that part, so I don't have like set amount of stats.
So you guys didn't do a lot of research on the Castle Doctrine in particular?
No, sir.
But you understand what Mr. Kett is saying as far as the way the Castle Doctrine is applied. You break into my house, I pull a firearm, and I shoot or kill you. I'm vindicated from that because you broke into my house,
Yes, sir.
right? And you guys feel that that's good? That's an okay thing,
I do.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I do that.
What if you broke into my place of business? Should that Castle Doctrine still apply to that? So my grocery store, my mini mart, my whatever, you broke in, I shoot you, should I still be absolved of any guilt in that?
Are they breaking in like this locked, or is it just like in the middle of the day?
You extrapolate for yourself, sir.
I mean, if you think that it's a threat and you think that you're in harm's way, I think you should have the right.
Okay. So if they break into my business and I shoot and kill them, I'm good? What if they break into my church? It's my church. I mean, it's everybody else's church too that's there, but it's my church. Should I be able to shoot and kill them and not be held liable?
If you feel your life is in harm's way.
Okay. What if they break into the school? I work here. It's my place of employment, right? Should I be able to shoot and kill them? I'm neither concealing nor carrying. Let's be very clear.
I mean, I doubt you'd have a firearm here, but I mean, if Officer Hart felt the need, yeah, right.
So Officer Hart's a sworn law enforcement officer.
But nobody else in the building had a firearm.
Okay. If I did,
Probably be against the law.
should I be allowed, if somebody breaks into the school and I pull my concealed and carried firearm, whether Officer Hart approved of it or not, if I just happen to have it and I killed somebody, should I be absolved of all charges because it's my place of employment or because I'm in the school?
Do you feel your life is in harm's way?
That's an interesting point, though, because you're saying if you feel your life is in harm's, why would you feel your life is in harm's way if somebody just broke in?
Because they had the intentions of something, of anything, if they're the reason, if they're breaking in, if they want to break into something, that's how you know that your life or something might be in danger, because there wouldn't be a reason for them just breaking in for no reason. So they're obviously looking for something, want something, or try to do something.
Okay, but what if they're not carrying a weapon?
But you don't know.
You never know because they're still breaking in.
So, what, any criminal act triggers the right to pull a gun and shoot somebody in self-defense?
No, but like I said, Officer Hart, all the officers have to assume that somebody, when they're pulling over anybody or confronting anybody, that they have to assume they're armed. I think as citizens, if people are coming in to your place of work, your home, or anything, they get to assume that they're armed, that they're a threat, but it's basically a judgment call when it comes to that point.
So if a guy cuts me out on the freeway and I feel like I'm in danger,
What do you think about terminology that's typically employed in gun control debate? There are a lot of terms that I'm sure you ran into in your research and that you commonly hear, and I'll name a few of them. Gun violence is one. Assault weapons, which was mentioned. High-powered weapons is one. High-capacity magazines. What do you think about the use of that kind of terminology in the gun control debate?
I feel like,
And do those words, do they matter, or would there be other words that would convey the same meaning, but maybe put it in a different way?
yeah, I feel like those that are advocates for gun control and are trying to limit our our guns and our weapons that we own, they tend to use those words more like assault weapons and gun violence and stuff like that, because it shows weapons in a negative light. And I feel like whoever, like, you can skew the language to whatever argument you're trying to argue. So if you're pro gun control, you would use assault weapons and gun violence, high powered weapons. And if you're pro gun, pro Second Amendment, you're not going to refer to them as an assault rifle. You're just going to refer to it as a rifle. And so you skew the language to your argument, and it's not. I mean, it's not very difficult, but it does make a difference. The way you say it does put it in a different light.
Yeah, those words can create fear in people, maybe to say, maybe I do advocate for gun control.
You think that's the intention of using those words, to create fear?
I would say that in political agenda, like in like political society and stuff, like they do use certain words to create a certain emotional appeal. I mean, we learned about ethos, logos, and pathos this year. I mean, I'm sure those politicians have people that help them write their speeches to, you know, hit all of those areas.
Thank you.
So talking a little bit about when he mentioned about church, we're going to bring religion in a little bit. Assuming that you guys are Christians, how does that apply with guns and protecting yourself and possibly killing somebody when the Bible says thou shalt not kill?
Yes, that might be in the Bible that it says thou shalt not kill, but at the same time, if a person, like we mentioned earlier, if a person is trying to harm you in any way, and then you want to protect yourself, and then you do have a gun, and you had a gun, and then you end up killing them, I just think that's considered self-defense, even though in the Bible it says thou shalt not kill. That's just protecting yourself.
So as Christians, we should be okay with owning guns, people killing each other.
I wouldn't say
Or
We should be okay with
protecting
it.
yourself.
We should be okay with it, but that's what's happening in the life now, that people are dying from guns. It's not the guns that's killing the people, it's the people that's killing them, because they're the ones who decide to purchase the gun. They're the ones who decide to pull the trigger and to kill or harm that person. So it's not right that we think to kill people is fine, because it's not. It's the world. Like, people have lives, people have families. So
What should our stance be as Christians then, just on guns in general?
Well, as a Christian, I am obviously a gun advocate. I'm pro-gun, and the self-defense thing and protecting yourself and your family and those that you love I feel like you have to do that. And it also brings into question war and Christians' view on war and all that. And there's views in the Bible that advocate for war, and there's views in the Bible that are against war, and there's everything in between. So I think it's a matter of personal belief and a matter of moral at that point, because you can take parts of the Bible and you can read it and see that it might be pro-war when war is needed, and there's parts that are against war. So it all depends on how you read it and what you personally, like morally, how you think you should handle it.
And if it violates your conscience, I mean, it does say in the Bible, if something does violate your conscience and you continue to do it, it's a sin. So it's whatever your conscience feels, is that way, if you get from the Bible.
I'd like to circle back around to something we talked about earlier, which is, you guys mentioned that gun control laws differ across, different states, different cities, and that sort of thing. What do you think about, I don't know how to phrase this, so laws differ, they do differ across different places, presumably reflecting to some degree the intent or the preferences of the people who live in those places. Is that okay? Is that good? Should people be allowed to, collectively decide you know, what the gun control laws should be in their particular area? Should there be any limits on that, either maximum or minimum amounts of gun control?
I mean, the states have the right, and they have the right within the federal law to make those laws. Now, whether people agree with it or not, they have the right, so we can't really argue that.
So suppose you have you know, you live in Kentucky and you have the appropriate licenses and stuff here. If you go somewhere else where your gun license doesn't meet the standards of, you know, whatever is appropriate in that location, does that mean that you shouldn't be allowed to carry?
I think you definitely have to abide by the laws of wherever you're in, because, I mean, you're in their state. You're not in your state, I mean, you're in their state, so you should definitely abide by what they have to say.
Okay. Other thoughts, you guys?
I agree with what they said.
And like you said, you do have to abide by what this, like the current state that you're in, you have to abide by their laws. But I saw, in my research, I found that a vast majority of the states will accept Kentucky's concealed carry permit and things like that. So the license that you get in Kentucky is going to be valid in most states, but there are a few states that don't accept it.
There's like around like 40 states that accept our concealed carry permits.
Okay. But I know, so movements to do things like allow concealed carry without, you know, getting a license or something like that, then presumably wouldn't apply in the states
Right.
where that wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
About current American public opinion regarding ownership of firearms. Can you tell me where that is currently, and has it shifted one way or the other recently?
Well, I feel like there's a big divide, and there's those that are anti-gun, there's those that are pro-gun, and those that are anti-gun are normally fearful of them, and they are afraid of the possibilities that might have, like the possibilities that could come out of guns and the violence that they could be created. And then there's those that are pro-gun and are the law-abiding citizens that own guns and are owning guns to protect themselves and others. And I know currently in the United States, there's the amount of guns that we own hasn't gone down at all. There's more guns in the United States than there are people.
Do you know about how many guns there are in the United States?
120 guns per 100 people in the United States.
So, 100 million guns, 200, 300 million guns?
I don't have the exact number, I just
Okay.
know the ratio.
What, let me just circle back to the percentage. Gallup does a lot of polling, for instance, or any of the big poll companies often will poll on this particular topic. Do you know any like round numbers of people who are currently favor ownership of firearms? Let's say just that, restricted to that one very narrow topic in this very broad subject matter. How many people in the United States currently favor ownership of firearms?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But I do have seen like charts as far as you see a large spike when there's a mass shooting of people pro-gun control. I mean, they get pretty scared. They start to, hey, maybe this should be a good idea. And then you have a span of maybe 6-7 months where you don't see a mass shooting in the United States, and that decline starts to come and set. It kind of evens back out.
Could you define mass shooting? You mentioned that term.
4 more
a couple
people.
times. 4 more people, okay.
Haven't you said that when there's a mass shooting incident, that people tend to become more anti-gun, or at least lean heavily more towards restriction than they would prior to that event? Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it just people? Is it just society that seems to jump on this anti-gun bandwagon, or is there other forces at play there?
What do you mean for other forces?
Is there any other reason, is there any other thing that might happen after a mass shooting incident other than just people going, wow, somebody used a gun, I think we should restrict those?
Well, there's a bunch of news media. I mean, they make it public to everyone.
Okay.
So they're very like.
That's just unbiased news coverage of guns?
No, I just think I mean, a mass shooting is very it's very bad. I mean, to
Right.
society.
Absolutely.
I mean, so they do want to publicize it. I think that some people can really press the issue, but I think it is a matter of you do need to get that out there to show that, you know, it's a terrible thing that's happened. It's a tragedy, but I mean, I think it deserves the media coverage it does. But I do think some people do push it in a way for their political agendas.
Aha, there we go. That's good. I was leading you down a path. Good, thank you. Okay, so on the news this morning, I actually saw that I was watching it very casually, but I think that the last shooting victim from the Mandalay Bay incident in Las Vegas had passed away. The last person who was injured and was still receiving medical care passed away this morning. Let's talk a little bit about that incident. That's the most recent mass shooting incident that I can think of, at least on that scale. And I believe it was the largest one in American history, maybe? Does that sound right? Let's talk about that particular incident. Are you guys familiar with that incident?
A little bit, not like
The gentleman in the Mandalay Bay who opened fire down onto a crowd. I think it was a concert event,
Yeah,
right?
Jason
Jason Aldean.
Yes, okay. So talk to me a little bit about what happened in that incident and what the response was after that incident, because Evan was just talking about that there tends to be a response after a mass shooting incident. What happened after that incident? What happened during that incident?
So he fired from a building. He was above the crowd, firing down on the crowd. And the big thing for that shooting was that when he attacked, he used a bump stock, and so that kind of sparked the whole society wanted to get rid of bump stocks because they saw that.
For those of us who don't know, what is a bump stock?
So a bump stock it attaches to the rear of the rifle,
Okay.
and every time the rifle recoils, it fires again. So it basically turns a semi-automatic rifle into a fully automatic rifle.
Yes, it does. Why is that good or bad?
It's the reason that they banned, or that society banded together to try to get rid of that is because they saw, that's the first time that I'm pretty sure that's the first time that it's been used for a mass shooting.
Okay.
And the destruction that it caused and the devastation that it caused caused reason for it to be under question to be banned.
So it'd be safe to say that this particular incident drew attention to the existence of bump stocks.
Absolutely. Because a lot of people didn't know what it was.
The ability to modify a weapon that is manual or semi-automatic into a fully automatic weapon. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
It fires off 4 bullets per second, and the amount of accuracy of you controlling the gun is very, very hard to control.
Okay. So that started a movement to ban bump stocks. Is that what you said, Jaden?
Yes, yeah. That
Okay.
was the movement.
How do we feel about that individually? How do we feel about banning bump stocks?
I just found out what a bump stock is, so
Well, I support that, dude. It's all good. Yeah.
I would say it's a good thing because it turned a semi-auto into like a full auto, so it's kind of like a deadly weapon. All guns are deadly weapons, but it made it like more high-powered to me.
Okay.
I mean, if we've already banned full auto guns, I don't think there should be any huge debate over why we should ban something that turns a semi-automatic into a full automatic gun.
Doesn't banning bump stock go against the Second Amendment?
I would have to disagree.
Okay.
Bump stock is not a firearm.
Okay.
It's a modification to a firearm. So I don't feel like it doesn't restrict our ability to own a firearm. It just restricts the what we can do with it. So it's not the firearm itself. It's in addition to the firearm.
Okay.
And
What if we ban bullets? What if we ban bullets? Those aren't firearms.
That's a good loophole around the Constitution, I guess.
Well, there's a buzzword loophole right there. All right, well, let's talk a little bit. This distinguished panel, which is much smarter than me, has mentioned a couple other things that have been banned as we'll call them accessories. All right, talk to me a little bit about what other accessories we've heard have been banned. Are those universal bans? I think the bump stock thing is nationwide. Is that correct?
I believe
I think I even remember like turn it in, you can
They're
mail it
illegal.
here, you can
Yeah.
dispose of it, take it to your local law enforcement, whatever. Talk to me about other accessories that we have decided maybe don't fit what our desire for firearm ownership in America should be, or in states if they're particular states.
Could I interrupt just one
Please do.
second on this? I want to go back to the machine gun, and I know you guys are probably recently investigating all this stuff, and it is not well known that you actually can own full auto machine guns.
you can't.
If you own it before, sir.
They are NFA items, National Firearms Act of 1934, which was enacted, and kind of interestingly, some of the things we were talking about, because criminals at the time, Dillinger, Capone, those guys in Chicago actually, and were utilizing